Second.
All right.
Third.
And a third, thank you, Kirk. All those in favor, Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, sorry, Mr. Bags, I apologize, that was my fault. Go ahead, sir.
That's not a problem. With the breakneck speed of things taking place in this town over the last 14 days, it's, sometimes these things happen. So, all right, so just to give everybody watching, I'm sure they're all aware, because we've had several discussions, we've had taped hearings, we've had things for rebroadcast, but the planning board, zoning board, town administrator, at the time, I can't remember what Brooke's new title is, but help me, but it was Cheryl Lombardi that was the town services coordinator, but we've had input from every department head in town. So we undertook a process approximately 23 months ago with a grant fund that was paying for the lion's share of this review of our current zoning bylaws. Back last fall, we came before the public at a town meeting, a special town meeting, to, I guess, adopt some changes. Some of them were administrative, which we never got to, because the one that caused the most discussion, and we'll just leave it. Public comment revolved around changing the business zone. So at this point, tonight, or for the town meeting coming up 2 weeks from yesterday, there are no changes whatsoever. I can say emphatically, there are no changes to the current business zone. It will remain exactly the same as it's always been. So having said that, we have two warrant articles to amend, and I will read them to you. They're here, and they're on the screen, but the first article is to see if the town will vote to amend the town zoning bylaws by replacing all existing sections except the use table with an updated version titled Zoning Bylaw Update 6-2 of 25, which is on file at the town clerk's office and available on the town's website homepage, which shall include revisions to definitions, which is important to us right now because they are located presently all over the zoning bylaws. So we put them in one single section, so if anybody has a question about a definition, that's where we go and we deal from fact. You're on page 2, I'm on page 2, and it's there. So in addition to revision to definitions, use regulations, district regulations, special permitting, and any other applicable sections, thereby replacing the current zoning bylaw in their entirety, except for the provisions related to the accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, or to act in any way thereon. Now, ADUs were already approved at the special town meeting, and they went into effect February 2nd of 2025. So they're there, they're state mandated, they're allowed, the state's rules override whatever we would have locally. So at this point, I mean, as far as I'm certain, that's a done deal. So the first article is for the, what I just read, the definitions and all of that. The second article is to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaws by replacing Section 3, the use regulations, with updated versions attached to the warrant, which shall include revisions to definitions, use regulations, district regulations, special permits, and any other applicable sections or act thereon. We're sponsoring this by the planning board. I don't see the use. I think that was it, so it's just going to be the use table. Those are the two. That will put us in a very good position moving forward from this point to continue to try to resolve any perceived issues with the MBTA rural adjacent community, which will be coming up this fall. We have until December 31st to comply. There are some 121 communities in the state affected by the MBTA, so I'm just discussing it tonight, but it's not for the town meeting. Mm-hmm. And I believe there's only probably less than 30 towns that have not adopted an MBTA zoning. But we're still working on it because we have a lot of questions. And we've sent information to the state, we just haven't heard back as to if our suggestions or our actions are adequate or appropriate. I think we're getting good reads from the state that it's there, but we don't have the written correspondence yet. Once that comes back, we'll come back to you for the special town meeting in the fall, whenever you choose to do that. There's no rush here for our part. But at that point, this will all be done. So, any questions, concerns?
Questions?
I don't have any.
I don't have any
Thank you.
questions.
Okay, so I just have one, I'd just like to add, this is a personal note. And I'm going to ask that if something comes up between tonight and the town meeting, and any board, whether it be select, planning, Board of Health, conservation, if comments need to be made to any of these items that we're addressing here this evening, if you have the presence of sitting on the dais and addressing the town as the select board would do, and I don't know if I'm going to be invited up this year for these two warrant articles, I can do it, gladly do it from the floor. But if comments were to be made, and Julie, I'm not concerned, I'm not upset, but I was somewhat concerned, and we discussed it already, but there were comments made after a vote was taken by the board last year to approve the acceptance of the changes. And then, again, you have every right to make that statement, but I would ask that it not be made from the dais, that it be made from the floor of the town meeting as a citizen, and I think that was your intent, if I read it correctly, correct? You were doing it as a citizen,
I
not as a...
wasn't commenting on the zoning bylaws, so I think you're thinking of something different, but
I thought you read a prepared statement off your phone.
did, but it wasn't about the zoning bylaw.
What was it about?
It was about the citizen petition.
Oh, my error, I am sorry. But if we're gonna do, okay, but anyway, that, you're right, now that I see, I'm getting old and I forget these things. But anyway, so if comments would be made, I would just ask that anybody that has the pleasure or the presence of sitting on the dais make the comments from the floor. And you're right, because I was on that thing too, and I got them confused, so.
Yeah, the only comments that would be made from the podium above would be if they were in support of the way the board had
Okay.
voted their recommendation.
Okay, all right, that's fine. All right, again, that ship has sailed, that's done, so I apologize, because that was my misinterpretation, as Roger Clem, I misremembered. So we'll go from there.
Back a few years.
It is. All right, so with that, I'm good if you're good.
I'm good.
All right, so.
Peter,
Yes?
just one thing to add. So as Neil was kind enough to read this whole article, I noticed an error. So because we have the use regulations, which is the entirety of section 3 and article 2, we just need to strike the words use regulations, fourth line down right here in the article, which I can do, but I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to that.
All right, Heather, you're referring to the use, instead of use regulations, you're talking about the use table.
Yeah, we, when Brooke and I pulled it, it was easier just to pull the use table with the regulations, because some of the regulations were updated. So it was for that whole section.
Okay,
So it's section 3. So we just made that its own article. And what you'll see, and I sent it along to the select board tonight, and it'll get posted on the website after this evening if the select board approves everything. In the first article, the zoning laws, bylaws in their entirety, include the old version, the 2019 version of section 3, and then section 3 doesn't show up as modified until the article 2. So I just have to change the reference to that section with use regulations here, and then we're good.
So what you sent us late this afternoon is correct?
yes.
Yes, everything, the documents themselves are correct. The article right here, I'm pretty sure this was still in earlier because I didn't see it until about 2 seconds ago when Neil read it.
Oh, okay.
All right. And the reason we did it that way, that if Article 1 passes, we have a use regulation, and if Article 2 doesn't, then we would be stuck without it. So we're asking to modify, after Article 1 is accepted, we're going to ask to modify and insert Article 2 into that use section. But if it didn't, if there was a discussion and people didn't like what was happening, we could not be without the use regulations. That would just create total chaos. So that's kind of how town council had advised to do this, okay? So with that, do you have another I'll send it back to you.
Yeah.
I'm good. All right. All right. So does this now involve you folks each reading the warrant, and then it's accepted and voted? So it's like we read it, then you make the motion to accept the thing, then all that kind of stuff like in the past? Good luck, okay. All right.
I'm glad you find that entertaining.
Well, it's just, I find it a bit repetitive, and that's okay.
Well, we're just gonna read through it once and
All right,
Let's,
okay.
Thank you. All right, next up, we've got the MS4, there we go. We got the Stormwater MS4 discussion with Mr. Thibault, our DPW Director. Come on up, sir. Thank you for attending again this evening.
Peter, can you talk into the mic?
I thought I was, I apologize.
Good evening, Travis Thibault, Paxton DPW Director. I'm here to discuss the MS4, the proposed MS4 budget for FY26 for the MS4 Enterprise Fund. Heather, would you have the ability to pull that up? Or are we? Okay. Would you folks like me to go down and kind of explain each line item, just so that everybody's on the same page? I mean, I kind of wrote the notes out for it here, but I'll gladly do that if you'd like.
Would.
And if there's any questions, stop me at any moment in time and feel free to ask. So under purchase services, we have a listed equipment maintenance and repairs. So this would be for the asset inventory equipment that is pertaining specifically to stormwater. That would be the catch basin truck, street sweeper. We're doing repairs, any excavation equipment. If we have issues during doing said repairs, I would think that the funding would come out of here to make the repairs. Licenses, trainings, and meetings, $500 line item for that. There are some free trainings and meetings out there. There are also some that cost a little bit of money, so we were looking to set aside a little bit for that. Permitting, cleanings, inspections, and disposal. I set aside, we're proposing $40,000 for that. Last year, we were over $30,000, I believe. We had to budget for disposal of all of this, as well as what we're doing for permitting needs. Most of the inspections our staff are doing. We may have a need, being short-staffed this year, to have to get a consultant to do some of these inspections of outfalls. I'm not certain as of yet. The disposal of the catch basin cleanings and street sweepings, there's not a location we can bring them in Massachusetts anymore in our area. The closest place is down the Cape or up in New Hampshire. So they've been, the last 2 years, I believe, we've had to truck them up to New Hampshire in order to dispose of them. The majority of our staff do not have the licensing to travel out of state with a CDL truck. So we're having to subcontract that out, hence the high cost for that. Consultant services, proposing $30,000 for this. This would cover the cost of engineering and/or the need for a consultant to do any assistance with the town for reporting requirements for the MS4 through the DEP or the EPA. My thought behind allotting this funds is it would allow us the ability to at least get some of the engineering done on the mandated filtration systems that we were supposed to start installing last year. That also kind of ties into the MS4 retrofit, which is a couple lines down, but I'll speak of that in a moment. System mapping and software. So we have a software system that's utilized for all of the stormwater MS4 stuff that we need to deal with. It's all based on GIS information. When they originally went out and did the GISing of the system, they labeled everything as catch basins throughout town. So on our mapping system, there are no manhole structures in town. Well, that's going to be extremely time consuming for us to get back out there. So we're hoping that if we can get this line item to stay at that dollar figure, that we'll be able to get some assistance with a surveyor to come out and assist with doing some of the GISing to correct the issues in the mapping.
Travis, when was that done?
2018, 2019.
This is going back
I'm kind of guessing, so
I know,
sorry, I don't mean to
remember
be looking at you,
dis-
Carol, but
yeah, I
it was,
remember us discussing this way back, so it's when we first got that grant, so it's a while
Yeah,
back.
Mike was doing it, right?
yeah.
But it wasn't, it was just, we had a grant to do that, so,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was part of the CMRPC, but it's amazing me how long we've had to be working on this.
yeah, oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
it's going to be
expensive.
indefinitely,
Oh,
unfortunately.
I know, I get that, just, it seems like you can't get caught up. Go ahead.
No.
There's so
Sorry.
much to catch up on, that's the problem.
MS4 retrofits, so again, this was, I believe it's supposed to be the second year that we were supposed to be doing it in FY '25, and we haven't done any installations of these retrofits as of yet. When we got our, in working with Fuss and O'Neill, their original recommendation of funding was the cheapest filtration system. We're going to be looking at roughly around $50,000 to have it designed and installed. So, again, I'm just trying to not fall further behind with allotting or proposing this amount of funding, along with the previous mentioned $30,000 for consulting services for engineering and/or consultant needs. It's not going to get us in compliance, but it would at least, in my opinion, give a good faith effort
Yeah.
that we're trying to do something. And the price tag's only going to go up from there on these systems that we're going to be mandated to put in, so. Police details, I'm proposing $6,000. That's roughly 12 days' worth of details. Well, not quite 12 full days' worth of details in doing work out in the roads. Everything we do on any major road, we need a detail officer, whether it's repairing a manhole or replacing pipe. So it's $6,000. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's really not a lot of time that we get for that line item. Cost for DigSafe at $250, that's an annual cost for the department to be a member. It may be a slight dollar figure less than that, because we do split that with the water department, the light department. And I didn't have that information readily available at the moment when I was putting this all together. So that's what I budget for the water department. That's what I felt safe budgeting for the Stormwater Enterprise Fund. Contractor and/or rental equipment, I'm proposing a $5,000 line item here. I know we have many, but there's one in particular, outfall on Richards Ave. A resident has contacted me several times over the last year or so to try to get some repairs done over there. There's a large outfall across from the end of Streeter Road that is eroding the property, which leads into his private property. And we just haven't had the ability to do it. So either I need to hire a contractor to come in and do that, or we need to rent the equipment to do it. I'm again, trying to not fall further behind the 8 ball, so I'm proposing to put it in here. But that's, again, there's so much work that needs to be done with this infrastructure. It's really not enough, even close to enough, but it would be a start for us to at least do something. Paxton Municipal Light Department billing, $2,500 to cover the cost of an annual billing service. In speaking with both the town administrator and the municipal light department manager, Tara's telling me that's about what we're looking for. If it's a one-time fee, that one bill that's going to be sent to each resident once annually. That may change if it becomes a monthly thing a little bit, but it's not similar. It's more similar to the trash, right, as opposed to the water department, where it would be a flat fee all the time if they were to do that. So there might be a slight adjustment in that figure, but that's, in speaking with the light department manager, that's what she recommended we'd be looking at for a budget needed for billing. So that would be what I'm proposing for purchase services for a total allotment of $159,250. Supplies, personal protective equipment, $2,000. This would be safety equipment, such as confined space entry stuff, any signage that we're gonna need. Yes, I'm aware we have signage. We have some of this equipment already. The majority of our equipment is aged. Same reason I put in a line item for PPE for every other department we work under. We try to upgrade the equipment as needed. It's a safety thing, especially when you're dealing with confined space entries such as climbing in and repairing basins and manholes. It can be extremely dangerous. So the equipment we do have currently for confined space entry is 15-plus years old and should be upgraded. Office expenses, I'm proposing $1,500 for this. As of right now, we have an older tablet we've been trying to utilize out in the field. It's beat up. It should be replaced. These things cost money. They're not inexpensive. They need to be of a rugged build so that our staff have them out in the roads, climbing in ditches with them, coming in and out of trucks with them. It's not something that's being kept in an office. On top of that, that would cover other office expense needs for all MS4 requirements. Sandstone and gravel, I'm proposing a $3,000 line item for this. Again, I don't think this is nearly enough, but it's something. It would allow us some funding to make some repairs on some of the catch basins and manhole structures we have out there. Same thing for asphalt and coal patch. I'm proposing a $3,000 line item for this. It would be of the same mindset, to make some repairs with what we could for basins, manholes. The funding that I'm requesting here isn't replacing any major infrastructure. This is putting Band-Aids on some of the catch basins. We have roughly, I want to say the last I looked, it was around 45 catch basins right now that are failing on us, that are falling in. We need parts, we need material, and it takes time. So this is why I'm putting in these figures. Materials, $7,000. This would be for items such as pipes, fittings, cement, concrete mix, mortar mix, whatever may be needed, brick, block, frames. If we need to purchase prefabricated, pre-poured structures. Again, this is to try to repair the major failures that we're having throughout the system. Tools and equipment, $3,500 is what I'm proposing. This would be for small hand tools such as shovels, hose, rakes, anything to do with concrete work, as well as maybe some mid-sized power equipment such as a compactor, any Hilti drills that may be necessary to be purchased. Yes, we do have some of this equipment, but again, the majority of our equipment is older and is in need of repair or replacement. $3,500, that's the cost of one compactor if I'm lucky. So it's not a lot of funding in my experience with the field. Total cost for supplies being proposed is $20,000 for a total budget of $179,250. I'm going to say it again, and I know I've said it before, and I'm going to sound like a broken record. This isn't nearly enough funding to do what needs to be done. In my opinion, there should be funding set aside for infrastructure replacement. The majority of the infrastructure throughout town is well beyond its lifespan, well beyond its recommended lifespan, and it's failing. Everywhere it's failing. This would allow us to keep moving on the MS4 budget, on the MS4 requirements, and attempt to make some repairs, do some of the work that's necessary. According to my calculations, at that total estimated $179,250, over, if you used the number of 2,000 parcels, you'd be looking at roughly $89.63 annually per parcel, or $7.47 per month. 2,000 parcels is what I was recommended to utilize as a figure from the town administrator. Questions, comments, concerns?
Last year during budget season, I remember when we were wrapping things up and Kirk said, what about stormwater that we're behind? And I remember Carol saying, most towns now have fallen behind. Are most towns in the same predicament that we're in? Are they as far behind as we are?
I'm not certain, to be honest with you. I'll be frank with you. I have so much to do in this town that
I just didn't know if
I-
there was word out.
So,
I know some of the surrounding towns are having issues, but I haven't had a chance to talk to all of them.
Yeah, understood
some of the towns have already moved forward with this.
with what we're doing.
Yeah, Rutland adopted it a couple of years back.
Yep.
And Shrewsbury had it about, I think it was Shrewsbury Northborough, they had it over 10 years ago. So, and they do it differently, they do it on an assessed basis, not just a flat fee. So, I know Travis has worked really hard on this with the town administrator, and there's been various budgets that he placed, and some of them were a lot more than this, because it captured a lot. You did an initial budget that captured everything.
Correct.
And then you had to swindle it down to make sure that it was feasible, which we appreciate. I think it's a long time coming, and I think we need to start moving on that, because it's just got further and further behind. Not for anybody's fault, just the money hasn't been there.
I would agree. I also understand there's a concern of this failing at town meeting. So this is what I'm proposing to you folks. So if you think that this is not adequate and you recommend that I make further cuts than this, you tell me to do so. To me, this is what I feel is the bare minimum for us to not fall behind any further.
So, I got another question, and that is, some of the stuff that's in here
Sure.
is stuff that you're not necessarily going to need to purchase every year, right? Am I correct on that?
Yes and no, because if it's not one thing for a piece of equipment, it's
another.
something else, right? So, like I said, I have this one particular outfall across from the end of Streeter Road that's causing pretty significant damage on private property. $5,000, I don't know if that's gonna cover that. But it would cover the cost for us to rent a machine for a week, and maybe we can attempt to do something to try to minimize or eliminate to the best of our ability to correct that one issue. With that said, that's one of a dozen or so outfalls that I know that need some pretty significant work. So where do I draw the line here? You know, it's,
And I get this is gonna be a hard question to answer, but are we figuring this as an annual budget or close to this?
in my personal, my professional opinion, I should say, I think it should be much higher than this.
Well, the only thing I'm concerned about is because we're going in, it says $89.63 annual cost per parcel.
Yep.
So is this a cost that we're gonna assume is going to remain $89.63, or are we going to be anticipating this cost rising?
But I don't think it'll get less, but
I think what we've seen in other communities is that the cost does incrementally go up.
it's gonna go up.
but the new budget will come before us next year.
Right, no, I understand that, just when it says annual per cost, that's what people are gonna be thinking, all right, so it's gonna be $89 this year, it's gonna be $89 next year, it's gonna be $89 the
Yep.
year after that. Just wanna make sure that we're being upfront with what it is that we are proposing here.
Yep,
And that
and I've
this
tried to do so right along, so.
No, I'm not questioning, I just wanna make sure that we're presenting it properly, that's why, when I see annual cost, it's not quite the annual cost, but it's the beginning, it's the kickoff cost.
Right.
For FY '26.
Correct.
Maybe I shouldn't have worded it that way.
No, I just wanna make sure I'm clear in my head, to be
Yep.
honest with you.
Yep.
I mean,
You know,
don't forget, I haven't been around new to this stuff, so I'm trying to get caught up.
Sure. You know, and unfortunately, as I stated earlier, the infrastructure in this town is in extremely tough shape. A lot of the original infrastructure for the storm system is galvanized pipe or steel tin pipe, ribbed tin pipe. The salt deteriorates that astronomically.
Yeah.
The main corridor running up 122 If you ever drive down the road on 122 during a snowstorm and see how much salt is getting put on that road, well, that leads into every waterway expelling from the center of town to the south side of town. The infrastructure is in extremely tough shape.
No, I understand that, yep.
In my opinion, the town should be looking at setting aside funding specifically for infrastructure replacement in the future, as well as capital equipment that's going to be needed in the future. In my original proposals for an MS4 budget, I had those two items listed in the budget as something that I feel should be in the budget. That way, this department's not coming before the town, the capital committee, the residents to ask for another $250,000 or $350,000 to purchase a basin truck, or $250,000 for a street sweeper. It would be saving that funding in the enterprise fund in small increments over the course of time. That was my original proposal. I was asked to reduce the budget figures, so those were the first line items that came out.
Kind of been the theme over the last couple of weeks.
Yes, sir. And I understand that. But in my opinion, I think that's what the town should be looking at as a goal, is to get those items in there so they're being funded small increments at a time, as opposed to coming for a large lump sum before the residents, capital, the select board, so on and so forth.
Any other questions on the budget?
I have none.
I don't have any.
I have none.
Seems pretty clear to me.
Mr. Bagdis has a question.
Well, not necessarily a question,
Okay.
but a suggestion.
A suggestion.
So looking at 8963 per lot, could this be broken out, it's just, I'm thinking outside the box, as kind of what we did with the town trash pickup, where it's a monthly fee that you see somewhere, but this is where it gets earmarked for? Kind of creating an enterprise account for stormwater management. Something like that might, I don't know if you can do it, but it might
That's
be.
exactly what we're doing.
That's where that's going to, that 867.47 is going to appear on my electric bill.
Potentially, yes.
Because then it would go up, I mean, just as the trash has gone up every year, whatever, when you
Costs go up.
renegotiate the
That's
contract.
right.
Now, the town administrator, in a meeting I had with her, suggested annual billing rather than monthly billing. So I'm not quite sure if it's gonna be that way, or if it's gonna be one.
What was the reason for wanting annual over
I
monthly?
think it's cheaper billing, is it?
I think the Paxton Municipal Light Department would save a small amount of funding on ink if it were one bill a year, as opposed to the ink to print the
Quarterly.
numerous bills over the course of each month.
I mean, it would just be an additional line on the existing bill.
There's a bit of, there might be information with it.
Okay.
Peter?
I think I'd like to see two
Well, it sounds like Heather's
installments.
got more information.
Yes, Heather.
I was just going to say, so when I had discussed this previously with Travis, and even discussed this with Tara at the light plan, so the argument for doing one bill for at least the first year is kind of to get a handle on our collections. We know this is what we're billing all the parcels, but there's always probability not everyone pays. It takes a while to collect it. Yes, you can track everything when you're doing it per month, and yes, maybe it's beneficial, especially if this number gets bigger over time, to have people pay it monthly rather than annually. But for this very first year, it kind of gives us a baseline and a data point to work from on what our collection rates are, if we're having any other issues. And then next year going forward, I think it's always an opportunity for the select board and Travis to reconsider the possibility of spreading it out monthly, but just to give us a starting point.
When would the bill go out?
So I think we'd want to send it, we've tried to look at what month is kind of like a quieter month financially for folks, right? One that's not as necessarily heavy on water billing, so people aren't watering their lawns as much. But at the same point, it would probably have to go out sooner, definitely within the first quarter, because you don't want to be expending, having expenditures going on if we're not collecting any revenues to be able to meet them.
I think I would suggest two bills, one to get some money in there and then one later on in the year. And the reason I said that is because if a property changes, then somebody doesn't pay up front for the full year, like, an abatement, I don't know. I'm just thinking too much, I think. But I would like to see 2 installments, personally.
I think you're going to get better collection if you attach it to the existing bill, frankly. So if if people are used to already paying their light bill monthly, it's got the trash fee on it. My personal opinion is that if you are adding a small amount, $7, et cetera, to that bill, people who are used to already paying that bill are just going to pay that amount. Whereas if a separate bill comes in, they don't know what it's for. They're going to have questions if they haven't been following along. I think that those are the bills that are going to get held back. And your collection rate's going to go down.
I think so. I think people think it's not legit.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is because I saw my daughters, and she actually brought it to me and said, is this legit? You know, because you get them sewer bills all the times and things like that, them false ones, them water ones. So I get what you're saying there.
Yeah, because if it's in with the water and the electric, it's
Might just be-
legit.
Right.
You might just have to adjust that a little bit, Travis.
Yeah.
Mr. Love has to be recognized.
Yeah, thank you. A couple of comments and a couple of points. One of the comments is we all know that somebody's gonna look at $89.63 and say, it's only $89.63. Somebody else is gonna say, just another tax disguised in a different way, passed on. I just think we all need to be prepared that that could be the reaction. The good news is, I think, that the annual town meeting will be much more sympathetic to this as is proposed. I think we have to emphasize 2 things. One is, it's an unfunded state mandate, and if it fails, it's coming back to the operating budget, and there's no place and no room in the operating budget for it. So in that regard, we need to push for its
For that enterprise
Approval.
fund. And I am inclined to agree with Julia. I just think that it's so easy to disregard a bill that I don't understand. If I get it once or twice a year, as opposed to, it's in with my electric bill, it's $8, it's marked MS4. I don't know what the heck MS4 is, but it's in there. It's coming from a source that I'm used to paying. I just think collections would be more likely to be collected that way.
I would save on postage, or we said that there's a lot of electronic bills in there.
I don't know that what is the difference in the billing cost, do we know?
Tara could not give me an exact figure. If we were to bill monthly, I don't think she had worked all the numbers up yet. She said that we're looking at roughly a cost of around $2,500.
I mean, the bills are already going out. I can't imagine, I don't know. So I should preface that with, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would hope that it's not a huge figure. I hope that the 2,500 would cover it, but I just think that I agree with you, that's the way to go.
Yeah. It seems simple, but again, I don't know the ins and outs of the billing, so, but that seems to make sense to me.
And I don't think it would be an issue for the light department to add that one line item into everyone's bill. It's never going to change for the entirety of the year. So,
Right.
If the select board wishes, I can certainly speak with them and have her give me an exact cost if that's what you're looking for.
I would like that, because I do think that's the way to go. Carol, you agree?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to notice it as much. I think what what Heather was saying, that for the collections, you want to count for it every month. They'll be able to count. They were thinking about counting it for once, for counting purposes. That's all. It's just another
And then
counting thing.
And then I think Mr. Love's point is well made, that we are going to have to be prepared to explain
Yep.
why we're doing this, that this
Right.
is not by our choice. This is not funding anything that we've put forth. This is really coming from the state telling us, you have no choice. This has to be done.
Right. Yep. And Travis, what's the amount of the fine if we fall behind with this?
To the best of my knowledge, they have not started fining any towns in the state as of yet. They have it written as such that towns or cities could be fined up to $25,000 per day. So if you're in non-compliance, which currently we are, they have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
Again, that has not happened as of yet, to the best of my knowledge. A lot of towns have gotten some strongly worded letters.
Yeah.
Have we?
We have not as of yet. I know we do have one issue that was something from back in 2020 or 2021 that unfortunately I have overlooked personally, that I need to get corrected this year. So you will be hearing from me again in regards to that. We need to make an adjustment to the stormwater bylaw to include some language, some required language.
All right, so moving forward with let's start with the enterprise fund policy and go through this because we have to approve that first. And then we can approve the budget and we can go on to other fun stuff this evening. So the way it's written, the purpose is, of course, the policy establishes the MS4 Enterprise Fund to manage revenues and expenditures related to the town's municipal separate storm sewer system, MS4, the 4 being the 4 S's, ensuring compliance with federal and state regulations, including the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's, EPA, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, the NPDES. We have initials for everything. Program and the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, Mass DEP requirements. The fund structure, it will be named the MS4 Enterprise Fund. The fund type will be an enterprise fund established under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F and 1/2. The oversight authority will be the Paxton Select Board. The revenue source will be an annual stormwater utility fee assessed to property owners. And the expenditures of funds will be used exclusively for MS4-related activities, including system maintenance, regulatory compliance, infrastructure improvements, and public education. Billing and collection. Billing cycle, we're now thinking monthly as opposed to annual. Well, I would assume that would then start in July.
Assuming that the light department can,
Right.
get that squared.
Billing method, invoices will be mailed through the Paxton Municipal Light Department, included with the electric and water billing. And they have payment due dates already established in their billing. Unpaid fees may result in interest charges and potential liens on the property in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 60. Budget and financial management, annual budget submission. The Department of Public Works shall submit a proposed MS4 Enterprise Fund budget to the Select Board for review and approval. The budget due date is no later than January 1st of each year. This year's, we're establishing it, which is why it's later. Budget approval, the Select Board shall review and vote on the proposed budget at a public meeting. Financial reporting, the DPW shall provide semi-annual financial reports to the Select Board detailing revenues, expenditures, and fund balance. Reports shall be submitted by December 31st and June 30th of each fiscal year. There is an abatement policy. Eligibility will include property owners may request an abatement of the stormwater utility fee under the following circumstances. The property is a 501c3 designated property for the purpose of protecting open space for conservation, and the property is returned to an undeveloped state. Application process, requests for abatements must be submitted in writing to the executive assistant. Documentation required, applicants must provide evidence of payment of the invoice supporting documentation for the abatement request. The submission deadline, all abatement requests must be received by November 1st of each year, and the Select Board will review all abatement requests at a public meeting and make determinations based on the criteria established in this policy. Finally, compliance and reporting. Regulatory compliance, the town shall comply with all applicable federal and state regulations governing MS4 systems, including the EPA's NPDES program and Mass DEP requirements. Annual reporting, the DPW shall prepare and submit an annual report to the Select Board detailing the town's MS4 activities, including compliance status, expenditures, and planned improvements. Public access, the annual report shall be made available to the public through the town's website and the town hall, and this policy may be amended by a majority vote of the Select Board. Not bad reading for a math teacher, huh? All right, so you've seen the draft policy. Any questions on that?
I have no question.
Kirk?
I have no questions.
Then I would say we need to vote on this. May I have a motion?
I move that we approve the MS4 Enterprise Fund Policy as drafted, but with the amendment to number 3, billing and collection, for a billing cycle to be monthly, starting in July of 2025.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We have reviewed the budget. Now we just need approval to incorporate for incorporation on the annual town meeting warrant. So may I?
I'll make a motion to approve the FY26 requested budget for the MS for Stormwater Enterprise Fund.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Travis.
I appreciate it,
Travis.
Travis. Okay, moving on. We are going to the annual town meeting warrant. And I think the way we're going to do this is, first of all, let's reopen, may I have a motion to reopen the annual town meeting warrant?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right, we need to do a final review of articles to be incorporated. You guys all have copies?
Yes.
Maybe the three of us could do a couple of articles at a time? Julia, why don't you get us kicked off, since I just had the pleasure of reading the MS4 Enterprise Fund.
Okay. All right, so do you want to go in bunches according to how they're in order here?
Yeah, we'll just do a couple at a time. Yeah, right in order.
So I'll make a motion that we approve Article 1 and Article 2, zoning bylaws.
Actually, Julie, what I was thinking was what we would do is read through the whole warrant.
I'll read it.
And then as one motion, make a motion to approve the articles. A second motion to approve the articles in the order that they're stated. A third motion to sign it. And
Close it.
then close it.
Okay, that works for me.
Or close it and then sign it.
All right, so I'll start with the easy ones then, because Mr. Bagdis already read them, so I'm going to read them again. These are the administrative articles, starting with Article 1, zoning bylaws, update and replace. To see if the town will vote to amend the town's zoning bylaws by replacing all existing sections except use table with the updated versions titled Zoning Bylaw Update 6/2/25, which is on file with the town clerk's office and available on the town's website homepage, which shall include revisions to definitions, district regulations. I left out use regulations. Did you see that?
Very good, I'm
Okay.
impressed.
District regulations, special permits, and any other applicable sections, thereby replacing the current zoning bylaws in their entirety, except for the provisions related to accessory dwelling units, ADUs, or act in any way thereon. Article submitted by the planning board. And then Article 2, zoning bylaws use table, to see if the town will vote to amend the town's zoning bylaws by replacing Section X use table with the updated version attached, which shall include revisions to definitions, use regulations, district regulations, special permits, and any other applicable sections or act in any way thereon. Article submitted by the planning board.
And that is section 3, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Carol, you want to do the next one?
Article 3, Chapter 90, authorisation to see if the town will vote to accept any funds to be allocated by the Commonwealth under authorisation of Chapter 90 of the Massachusetts General Laws pertaining to highway funds, to authorise the Selectboard to enter into contracts for the construction, reconstruction and improvement of town roads, and to authorise the town treasurer to borrow in anticipation of receipt of said funds to be expended under the direction of the Director of Public Works or act on any way thereon. Want to carry on?
Sure, why not?
Article 4, to see if the town will vote to repurpose part of the remaining funds, $10,000, previously appropriated under Article 5 of the May 2024 Annual Town Meeting for the purpose of purchasing an FY26 subscription for near map and pushpin aerial imagery, and mapping services or act in any way thereon.
All right, Article 5. To see if the town will vote to repurpose part of the remaining funds of $5,000 previously appropriated under Article 5 of the May 2024 Annual Town Meeting for the purpose of contracting with a consultant to assist in the town administrator's search or act in any way thereon. That article is submitted by the town administrator. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to repurpose the remaining funds of $34,250 previously appropriated under Article 5 of the 2025 Annual Town Meeting for the purpose of DPW building office related work or act in any way thereon. Why does that not sound right?
Should that be the 2024?
It should be 2024. It says 2025 here, but it definitely should be 2024 since we are preparing for the
Yes.
2025 town meeting.
Yes, and Peter, so that one, I think I updated in one of the newer versions, and this is, I have the Word version up on the screen. So Article 6 should actually say Article 6 of 2019, May 2019's annual town meeting. Larissa had caught that a little bit earlier for me, but it might have missed and passed when folks were reviewing things.
Okay, yeah, the latest one I still says 2025. That's 2019.
Yeah, the one for the DPW is 2019 May, Article 6.
Oh, okay.
Heather, can you scroll the Word document on your screen? We're looking at Article 3 and 4.
Oh, well, that would help, right?
There we go.
All right, how about now?
Much better.
Okay, and then the only other thing I had changed earlier since the older version was just with the repurpose of the article for Article 5, I just changed it to article submitted by the Select Board for the town administrator search.
Okay. Makes sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah, it does. All right, we're on to Article 7. Kirk, do you want to participate in our readathon or?
I think it'll be hard to do that via the latency that I have right now.
Okay, go ahead, Julia.
Okay, so Article 7, revolving fund expenditure limits, to see if the town will vote to set the annual expenditure limits for fiscal year 2026 for all revolving funds established under the general bylaws as set forth below, or act in any way thereon. Council on Aging, $2,000. Recreation, $250,000. Paxton Days, $5,000. Town rentals or leases, $4,000. Planning Board, $20,000. Library, $5,000. Conservation Commission, $2,500. Article submitted by the Select Board.
It says town-
It says town administrator.
Oh, I'm looking at the one on my screen, and it is different than the one that's here.
Yeah,
So,
the
yes,
updated one says town administrator.
submitted by town administrator. Bear with me, I'm gonna move over. There we go. Okay. So Article 8, Water Enterprise, Water Department Receipts. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate through Water Department receipts, water fees or water charges, or transfer from available funds, a sum of money to operate the water enterprise as follows. Compensation, $282,333. Expenses, $1,081,880. Debt, $147,635, for a total of $1,511,848. And that $1,511,848 is raised as follows. Department receipts, for the total of $1,511,848, or act in any way thereon. Article sponsored by the Board of Water Commissioners.
I'll do the next one. Water enterprise, water tank maintenance. Wait a minute. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to appropriate from returned earnings of the water enterprise fund the sum of $21,413 or any other sum to pay for the inspection, maintenance, repair or modification of the Aston Skip Road water storage tank in accordance with the 7th year of the existing contract with Veolia, formerly known as Suez Advanced Solutions, or acting anywhere thereon. Article submitted by the Board of Water Commissioners. MS4 Enterprise, MS4 Department Receipts, Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate through MS4 Department Receipts or transfer from available funds a sum of money to operate the MS4 Enterprise as follows. Compensation, 0. Expenses, $179,500, total of $179,500. And that $179,500 is raised as follows. Department receipts. Article submitted by the Selectboard.
Article 11, which is to appropriate funds to road improvement, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $124,887 to the Road Improvement Capital Stabilization Fund or act in any way thereon. That is submitted by the Select Board. Article 12, we're going to use the funds from the road improvement to see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $124,887 from the Road Improvement Capital Stabilization Fund for the purpose of resurfacing roads or act in any way thereon, also submitted by the Select Board.
I have a question on that one.
Fire away.
When we voted that in, was it Road Improvement Capital Stabilization Fund or just Road Improvement Stabilization Fund?
I thought it was just stabilization, but
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah.
I think you're probably right.
That's my recollection, Julia.
Yeah.
I haven't been around in 3 years, so you'll have to remind me.
I actually went, because when we were going through the budget, I was looking at that particular item, and I went back to the town meeting warrant when it was originally voted in to see how we had worded it. And my recollection is that it was the Road Improvement Stabilization Fund, so we should
the
probably
word
just
capital
check
needs
that.
to be struck.
Yeah,
I don't see how capital comes into it.
yeah.
Okay. So with that amended.
Yeah.
All right, you want to take 13?
Okay, Article 13 is capital HVAC for the library.
Can you raise the scroll, please?
That's Kate Cleveland, I think.
Thank you.
There we go. All right. Article 13, capital HVAC library, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the capital depreciation fund the sum of $5,000 or any other sum to be used towards the library HVAC project or act in any way thereon. Article submitted by the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, and then it says submitted by the library director. So I'm not sure if we need to look at who it's truly being submitted by. Do we need to strike that article submitted by CIPC? It looks like it's already been struck on Heather's version, so.
I just struck it as soon as you said that.
Okay,
There you
perfect.
go.
You're not losing it.
Thank you.
It's just live.
All right, Article 14, another capital article for the PCS boiler, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the capital depreciation fund the sum of $67,000 for the replacement of the boiler system at Paxton Center School.
School.
We should probably strike that.
Strike the S.
S, or act in any way thereon. Article submitted by the Wachusett Regional School District. Those are easy. I can go another one.
All right. On a roll.
Peter, can I make a point of clarification on 14? Do you mind? Capital's gonna be voting on it tomorrow night.
Go ahead, sir.
It's not the replacement of a boiler system. It's the replacement of one of 2 existing boilers.
That is correct. I recall that.
That's true. Heather?
So it should be the replacement of a boiler at Paxton Center Schools, or Center School. Now, I'm.
School.
Yeah, it's replacement of a boiler.
Yeah.
And strike the word system.
That makes sense.
Thank you, Mr. Love.
Article 15, Capital Police Vehicles 2, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Select Board in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 21C of the Massachusetts General Laws to enter into a 3-year lease-to-own agreement for the purpose of acquiring 2 SUVs for the police department in the amount of up to $90,000 to replace 2 existing cruisers/vehicles with a first-year lease payment of $30,000 to be transferred from Capital Depreciation Fund, and the remaining 2 annual payments to be raised and appropriated as part of the town's general operating budget or act in any way thereon.
Submitted by the police chief.
Submitted by the police chief, yes.
Okay.
Is it 2 or 3? My version reads 3. I thought Julia's,
She just updated that one there.
Julia
two.
said 2, so it's updated.
It's 2.
Yeah.
Just did it on the screen.
Yeah.
I'm in the back row.
Right, next article, Article 16, Capital Ambulance, to see if the town will vote to authorise the Select Board in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 21C of the Massachusetts General Laws to lease or borrow up to $450,000 for the purpose of acquiring a new ambulance to replace Ambulance 1 and meet the emergency medical needs of the community. It's funny that. Upon possession of the vehicle to be paid from ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation or act in any way thereon. Article submitted by the fire chief. Sorry.
No, it's all right. That's
Just read
good
it
with that
again.
one?
You want me to carry on? Okay. Article 17, Budget Bay Path, to see the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $652,973 to pay its assessed share of the Bay Path Regional Vocational Technical School budget for the fiscal year beginning on July 1st, 2025, or act in any way thereon. Article submitted by the Southern Worcester County Regional Vocational School District, known as Bay Path, and we're looking at an assessment above minimum of $574,499.
No, assessment above minimum is 0.
That's what it says here.
That should be minimum
Minimum
contribution is
Oh,
500.
mine says assessment above minimum, okay? I'll read it off there then. Minimum contribution, all right, same. Transportation, 16,990, 16,990.
Yeah.
Transportation, no, my line lost now.
It's hard to follow it without
Yeah.
a line going across.
Yeah, transportation, 16,999, 90, sorry, and Bay Path debt of 61,884 for a total of 652,973.
Yep.
Yeah, my version's different.
Yeah.
Article 18, the budget for the Wachusett Regional School District, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $8,358,879, or any other sum to pay its assessed share of the Wachusett Regional School District budget for the fiscal year beginning on July 1, 2025, and thereby approve the district's budget for said fiscal year or act in any way thereon. This article is submitted by the Wachusett Regional School District, and it breaks down as follows. Excuse me. Minimum local contribution is $5,269,394 Discretionary is $2,368,680. Debt service is $56,372. Transportation is $664,433, for your total of $8,358,879. And then Article 19 is the Wachusett Regional School District Establishment of Capital Stabilization Fund, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Wachusett Regional School District to establish a capital stabilization fund in accordance with Chapter 71, Section 16G and 1/2 of the Massachusetts General Laws, starting July 1, 2025, or act in any way thereon. This article is submitted by the Wachusett Regional School District.
All right,
I don't think you have to read everything in the table, by the way.
thank you.
We just need the article and the table.
That's fantastic. I appreciate that. All right, Article 20, FY 26 Budget Town, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $6,278,209 or any other sum, and to further appropriate from the EMS receipts account the sum of $490,000 or any other sum, and to further appropriate from free cash the sum of $500,000 or any other sum, and to further from operating stabilization the sum of $43,907 for a total appropriation of $7,312,100, $7,312,116 or any other sum, and that such sums be expended for the purposes under the direction of the respective town officers, boards, and committees, or act in any way thereon. So I think we need a little adjustment in there. Is EMS receipts account the appropriate verbiage for our ambulance receipts reserved? That's my question.
I think it's called
We
ambulance.
refer to it that way in a bunch of places, but I know what you're saying. I'm happy just to make it ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation.
Yeah, just that way it's the same throughout, you know? And then I think we might be missing the word appropriate. And to further appropriate or transfer from operating stabilization.
Transfer.
Transfer is probably the right
Transfer.
word.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It wouldn't be and to further from.
yeah. And then, and to further transfer from operating stability, yeah. So that reads better now. I'm good with
Okay.
that. Okay.
That wraps up the warrant articles for the annual town meeting, which Mr. Bagdis pointed out is 2 weeks from yesterday. Mr. Thibault, you have a question or a comment?
Article 10, the MS4 Enterprise Fund budget, I believe the total sum was incorrect. It was for $179,500 up there. Proposed was $179,200.
250, you're right. It was the $250 coming from the,
To clarify that,
I have a problem with numbers.
not that I mind the extra $250, but
I appreciate that, thank you. So if we can make that change as well.
Was that 250 or 260?
250. Which is the dig safe bill, right?
Right.
All right, so we've gone through that. Anything else on the annual town meeting warrant before we vote to close it?
Peter?
Yes.
Just clarification, so on the first two articles, I know Julia read this, but I think the changed version had this right here, which was with the updated versions titled Zoning Bylaw Update 06. I guess today is the most recent day. We looked at 03/2025. And then I think she already covered this, the Section 3 use regulations, but with the updated version attached to the warrant. But I just wanted to make sure the board's okay with that incorporation.
With it being attached to the warrant. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Article 2, the smaller of the two, Section 3, which is only about 18 pages, give or take, is attached to the warrant, and the larger, per the instruction of legal counsel, that's about 137 pages, will be available on the website and
In the town clerk's
in
office.
person at town clerks, yep.
Okay.
And we struck use regulations, right, from the first article.
You,
Looks like you did.
Yes.
Yeah,
You went right over that very wisely.
okay. Good. So I'll make a motion that we close the warrant.
Hold on,
Sorry.
just 1 second, okay? Mr. Love asked to be recognized.
Article 16,
Article 16.
again, only because capital's gonna be voting on it tomorrow night. I think our committee report, it was a little more expansive. It does speak to the tune of $450,000, like this article reads. But I think we spoke also of 79,000 over 7 years. I think that tempers a little bit somebody seeing 450,000 and not thinking it through or knowing exactly how it's gonna play out. My understanding, it was going to begin now to set aside 79,000 per year for 7 years.
I'm gonna have.
I'm not sure that's
ask you to
conveyed
about that.
properly in
I
this
wasn't.
article.
Yeah,
or-
that doesn't read correctly, because it looks like we're borrowing 450,000 this year. The article as written looks like we're borrowing 450,000 this year,
Yeah, so you're right.
so you're correct.
So we should add that verbiage? Is
Yeah,
that the
it
recommendation?
needs changing that.
Yeah,
So if the board's okay with it, at the board's direction, I'm happy to revise this article with legal's approval and put it back in if the select board's okay with giving me that leeway.
that I would
Any-
recommend.
Any issue with either one of you?
No, 'cause I'm
Again,
assuming-
I wasn't on the board at that time, so,
I'm assuming every year there's going to be an article for so much.
Right, because it's gonna have to be appropriated from ambulance receipts reserved in order to pay that.
Yeah.
okay.
Is that correct? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I think it's more semantics, because it might not be 79,000.
Right, this year's gonna be 79,000,
Yeah.
but it could vary over the years until, okay. Kirk, are you okay with that?
Yes, sir. Good catch, Mark.
There's a white truck with a horn blowing and lights blinking here at the end of the parking lot.
That's me. There it goes. Got it.
Did you not like that verbiage?
No, I love the
Okay.
verbiage, that's it. See, it was even agreeing out there.
Sounded to me like he was arguing. All right, so we're okay with that? All right, that being said, may I please have a motion to close the warrant?
I move that we close the warrant for the annual
I'll
town
second.
meeting on June 16th. 2020.
Okay, so we have a motion and it's seconded. Thank you, Kirk. All in favor? Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right, so now I need a motion for the select board to vote, or to sign the annual town meeting warrant.
I move that the select board sign the annual town meeting warrant for the annual town meeting occurring on June 16th, 2025,
At Anna Maria College.
at Anna Maria College.
To make sure we know that.
Yeah.
I second.
Second.
All right, motion's made, it's seconded. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right, now we just need to go through very quick, well, not very quickly, if there's discussion, and vote whether or not we recommend approval for these articles. So, let's start with Article 1, the zoning bylaws update and replace. May I have a motion, please?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 1, zoning bylaws, update and replace.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Article 2, zoning bylaws use regulations.
I move that we recommend approval of Article 2, zoning bylaws, use regulations.
Second.
Second.
And we got a couple of seconds, that's
Oh,
good.
wait for
Any discussion?
discussion.
All in favor, Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Article 3, Chapter 90 authorization.
I move that we recommend approval of Article 3, Chapter 90 authorization.
Second.
Any discussion? I can't imagine there's going to be discussion about recommending to approve accepting money from the state, but Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Article 4, repurpose article, near map and push pin. May I have a recommendation, or a motion for recommendation?
We can discuss this, but I'm going to start by making a motion that we recommend disapproval of Article 4.
May I have a second?
Can you tell me why?
We have a second, well, let's have a second.
Second.
All right, so any discussion? Go ahead, Julie.
Yeah, so the discussion that I have at this point is with our current budget being so strained, I'm not sure we should be taking on the burden of an additional $10,000 per year for software without having some surety or assurances that it in fact is going to pan out and pay for itself.
Okay.
Especially where it's only funded the first year because of the repurpose.
Right. That's my struggle.
Have you any thoughts of where you want to repurpose it? Or you just want to,
Well, I had a phone call yesterday which informed me that $10,000 is probably not going to be enough for the town administrator search. That said, it's, the suggestion was that it would be closer to 12 to 15 for the search firm to review the town administrator. So that would take up part of it. The other part of it, I don't have any particular assignment.
So we're talking about a whole new warrant article.
Well, it would be, right now, the amount is coming from the same place, and we already have the warrant article for Article 5, so you could bump that number up on Article 5. It wouldn't require a new warrant article, unless you decided to repurpose that other amount separately. It doesn't necessarily,
Just leave the extra, what are you calling for, then an extra $3,000?
I would, yeah, for Article 5, I'd suggest raising that amount.
To 12?
We have 5 here and we have 5 in the budget, so that's 10,000 there. So I would say you would add that, take that 5 and make it 8.
why don't you just take the 2 and repurpose them both for the town administrator's search and the 5,000 in the budget, keeping them in the budget for the town administrator.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
If there's anything left over, it will just fall into free cash next year.
Why don't you just tell the search firm that you can't pay anymore? They have to do it for the
So-
amount that you have in the budget.
Is that Kirk?
No,
Oh. So if we did that, then we'd be,
you could condense an article, yeah.
yeah, we'd be striking Article 4.
Well, no, because you can't, you've got to, just do it as it is, just say that the purpose has been for the town administrator search, and then the other one's the town administrator search.
So make them both town administrative search?
Yeah, because it's cleaner that way.
Kirk, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of latency issue, but I think I'm up to speed with you guys.
Okay, so you're up to speed. Are you in agreement?
Yeah, because I think we're gonna need to find a town administrator probably more desperately than a software, without a guarantee.
We would have to so we just have to reopen the warrants, because we gotta change the repurposing of that.
Yeah, so do we need to reopen it?
We'd have to have a motion to reopen it, change that, a motion to close, and then another vote to authorize the board to sign.
Yeah, All right. I will make a motion to reopen the warrant for the annual town meeting for June 16th, 2025.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
All right. So, do we have a feeling on whether we want to do this, just leave them as two separate articles rather than renumber? They're both coming from the same
I would
place.
Yeah, I'd recommend just do a one article. If you're gonna do that, make it cleaner.
Between two.
It's okay if you renumber, because they'll just pop up one.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
So, I'm going to move that we strike Article 5 and make the change to Article 4 so that it is entitled Repurpose Article Search Firm, or you can do it the other way around, it doesn't.
Yeah, strike Article 4.
Strike Article 4.
And then make the amount 15,000 rather than 5,000.
Yes.
But you got to say where it's coming from.
So to see if the town will vote to repurpose part of, it's going to have to say, see if the town will vote to repurpose the remaining funds of $15,000 previously appropriated under Article 5 of the May 2024 annual town meeting for the purpose of contracting with a consultant to assist in the town administrator search or act in any way thereon. Article is submitted by the select board. All right. And so that will become Article 4.
And every other article just bumps up one.
Yep. What would you like for a motion?
But aren't we repurposing from Article 5 of 2024 and Article 19 of, or something of 2019, whatever it were? I don't know what the change was.
Oh, I don't remember what the change was.
So, Carol, you're right. So there was two repurposed articles from two different years, but the entirety of the May 2019 article was pertaining to the DPW building for that 34,250. And this 15,000 to do those two articles that we previously
Oh,
had, one
sorry,
for the near
ignore
map, one for the select board, were from the same article. So
Okay.
this is now taking all the money from the remaining article together.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm confused.
Thank you, Heather. All right,
Okay.
so we're set on that wording. Every other one bumps up one. Anything else with, now that we've got it open? While we have it open, is there anything else?
I have nothing else.
Carol, do you have anything else?
No,
Kirk, are we good?
I'm just getting
We're good.
3 into 2.
All right, then.
We're good.
Thank you, sir. Then I'm going to need a motion to close the warrant.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, I don't think we're gonna have any discussion since we got a motion in 2 seconds. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Now I'm gonna need another motion for the select board, to authorize the select board to sign the updated warrant.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right. Now that we've done that, Article 4 is going to be the repurpose article for the search firm for $15,000. May I now, and the old Article 4 will be stricken. May I please have a motion for a recommendation on the new Article 4, the repurpose article?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 4, the repurpose article for the search firm.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, so we are, and if I make a mistake on these article numbering, please correct me, but we're on to Article 5, the repurpose article for the DPW. May I please have a motion for a recommendation?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 5, the repurpose article for the DPW.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Article 6, the revolving fund expenditure limits. May I please have a motion for a recommendation?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 6, revolving fund expenditure limits.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Article 7, Water Enterprise and Water Department receipts. May I please have a motion for a recommendation?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 7, Water Enterprise, Water Department receipts.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Article 8, Water Enterprise Water Tank Maintenance. May I please have a motion for a recommendation for Article 8?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 8, Water Enterprise, Water Tank Maintenance.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Article 9, MS4 Enterprise, MS4 Department receipts. May I please have a motion for a recommendation for Article 9?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 9, MS4 Enterprise, MS4 Department receipts.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Article 10, to appropriate funds to road improvement. May I please have a motion for a recommendation?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 10, appropriate funds to road improvement.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Excuse me. Article 11, use the funds from the road improvement. May I have a motion for a recommendation?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 11, use funds from road improvement.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Article 12, capital HVAC library. May I have a motion for a recommendation for Article 12?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 12, capital HVAC library.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Article 13, capital. This is to purchase a boiler for Paxton Center School. May I have a, excuse me, may I have a motion for a recommendation?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 13, capital PCS boiler.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Article 14, capital police vehicles, 2 police vehicles. May I have a motion for a recommendation, please?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 15, capital police vehicles 2. I'm sorry, 14. Article 14.
Article 14.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Article 15, capital for the $79,000 for the, toward the ambulance. May I have a motion for a recommendation, please?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 15, capital ambulance.
Second.
Discussion? Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Article 16, the Bay Path budget. May I have a motion for a recommendation, please?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 16, budget Bay Path.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Article 17, the budget for the Wachusett Regional High School District. May I have a motion for a recommendation, please?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 17, budget Wachusett Regional School District.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Article 19, the FY 20, what's that?
18.
18.
Did I miss 8? Oh, I missed 18, sorry, I almost skipped right over the Wachusett capitalization. Is that a smaller, on mine?
It is.
Smaller font?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Article 18, thank you. The Wachusett Regional School District establishment of a capital stabilization fund. May I have a motion for a recommendation, please?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 18, Wachusett Regional School District Establishment of Capital Stabilization Fund.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Now, Article 19, the FY '26 budget for the town. May I have a motion for a recommendation, please?
I move that we recommend approval of Article 19, FY26 budget, town.
Second.
Any discussion on the recommendation for town budget? Hearing none. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The warrant is complete. And I gotta, okay, that takes care of that. We do have year-end transfers, and I have to go back to this. I apologize. There we go. All right, we have 3 year-end transfers that we need to deal with. The first one being from health insurance premiums to fire purchased services, and this is for emergency repairs in the amount of $12,000. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The second one is also from the health insurance premiums, and this one is to fire compensation. This is to cover overtime and part-time costs while injured out on duty. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And the last one is from the Wachusett Regional School District Assessment, and this one is 2 IT purchased services, higher than anticipated costs, the amount of $10,491.26. May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the transfer.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Julia?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right. Any old business? I don't see any old business. I don't have any correspondence at this moment. Any town administrator report, Heather?
Nope, not tonight, thank you.
Okay. Citizen speak. Is there a citizen that would like to speak?
I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Mr. Bagdis?
Well, may I?
Well, you know, it's a simple
I've been away.
procedure.
Please put my name on there. I'm sorry. It's tough to get back into a routine.
Go ahead, Mr.
All right.
Bagdis.
First off, I would like to commend the cooperation. I was not present, but I have viewed the last 3 meetings, whether they be joint or individual. And a comment is that I would like to commend everybody for the cooperation that was put forth in an effort to balance the budget and be able to move on, to avoid, I think the expression I heard was municipal Armageddon.
That was the expression
Okay,
that
so
they used.
I did. I watched some of them kind of intently, so I wanted to get through that. Having said all that, and watching what I guess was said, I have a couple of comments, if I may. First off, I am glad to hear that we have surpassed the 5,000 member population. We're at 5,004. And in view of that, I think it's important that we try to remember that the boards, whether it be the Selectboard, the Finance Committee, whatever, you have to represent everyone. And I heard some comments that it appeared that the police department was being singled out and morale was very, very low. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand, or it may, but the morale in town, I think, is equally as low, because people are truly concerned. So again, I appreciate what has happened. My charge to the board, and I guess it starts here at Select, is that the agreement that we have with Anna Maria be reviewed and scrutinized as soon as possible. We can't let ourselves get into a situation that we're in right now, where it seems to come up in I don't know, March, April, and May as we prepare for annual town meetings and budgets. So comments were made that, again, I said we were singling them out, the police department. But if, I still don't have a clarification, so I'm going to ask for a little leeway here. Can you tell me what the new proposed budget is for the PD? Is it 1,079,000? Is it 1,800,000? What, I mean, wherever we're at. And just, again, I'm not going to hold you to the exact number, but there were some sheets that I saw that had a 1,000,001, and that was for direct compensation from the town. And then I saw something with Anna Maria where they get compensated. So I'm just trying to gather a number for what you would say the police budget is.
The police budget, according to the annual town warrant, or the warrant for the annual town
Right,
meeting,
is-
is $1,156,029.
Okay. And that's okay, because I think when I make my next statement, you're going to say, no, that's not totally true. But I think the morale in the PD in terms of where the officers may feel that they're being singled out is that you have two representatives on the payroll for that town that are taking almost half of that number, $406,000 between the chief and a lieutenant. And if you have $1 million budget, that just seems so one-sided that maybe they are concerned with what I would say some of their job security in terms of where am I going to be if the budget cuts can't be met or we can't balance a budget. And it's important that if in fact there are, I heard numbers again watching the meetings, there are 12 or 13 officers, but then there's 16 members on the payroll because we have to include part of Anna Maria. I still don't know what the number is, but with, let's just say, 1,000,001 rounding up and 700,000 rounding up or rounding down a little bit, there's 1,000,008. And if a department, and I have no experience managing, running, or whatever, a police department. So I wanted, because that was at one of the meetings I saw, somebody asked, do you know how to run a police department? So I'm not claiming to be an expert in any way, shape, or form. But if you provide a department with roughly, and I'm rounding around, $1.9 million, and they cannot provide 24/7, 365 coverage, there's something wrong. So those are just some charges that I would make as we go forward into the new fiscal year. We can't wait for this to come back to, January, February, and start looking at budgets. The other thing that I saw somebody read out of the Anna Maria, the contract with Anna Maria, there was a gentleman sitting in the office, had it on his phone. Again, I didn't get his names, but I'm not singling him out, is that it was also mentioned that at any time, either party could break the agreement. And if it's a good thing for the town, then I would say let's not break it. But by all appearances that seem to have come out of discussions over the last 2.5 or 3 weeks or a month, the perception is it's not a good deal. And Carol, I just take exception. You're supporting it, and I understand that. And it's been going on, I believe, Peter, you stated, for some 15 years.
Almost, not
Okay.
quite.
And there was, again, I'm just taking snippets out of things. I didn't write everything down, kind of speaking from memory. But it was also mentioned that Chief DeRozier had attended a conference in Chicago, I believe, to explain the contract. And it was unique in that there wasn't one like it anywhere else in the country. Have we done any research? Has anybody else gone into an agreement like this? Because my quick feeling is that town, if Anna Maria has that expendable cash, roughly $750,000 to $800,000, why wouldn't we look at a pilot program where the money comes in as a revenue source to the town, and then it can be dispensed or dispersed however the board, meaning select or finance, whatever, sees fit, rather than having it weighted so heavily to 1, 2, or 3 employees. I think you mentioned in the discussions when you put up the little chart, there was the chief, the lieutenant, I think there was a detective, help me now again, and there was an assistant.
It was a sergeant.
I'm sorry, sergeant. But again, I was just trying to gather some of those facts. I stopped it at one point to try to write, but I said, no, I'll just watch the whole thing and get back. But I just think that if we need to do this, in my professional career, I get to travel all over the New England area, and I talk with several town administrators that I see, because they're associated with fire departments and EMS agencies and this and that. And when I looked at what happened here, it appears that everybody else got their house in order, with the exception of DPW. You cut them to the bone, and I don't know how they're gonna do it. So I commend Travis. His answer always was, we'll do the best we can with what you provide. And I think that's a commendable attitude to have, and his employee, I mean, he didn't mention anything about morale there. And then the fire department, I mean, they seem to have rallied around to get things done, and it just seemed that we have most favored nation status for the PD. And I'm just, when I look at the overall budget of $6 million for the town, $6,278,209. I wrote that down after tonight's meeting. But, you know, almost $2 million of that is coming from the PD, which is 1/3. And we have to stop the fear-mongering that we're not going to be able to provide. We can't have 24/7 coverage. And I know you championed the cause about saying we're a bordering town of Worcester and the crime rate, and people are going to drive out here. And that could happen. Or we could have domestic incidents, or we have something at the campus at whatever, off hours, after midnight or whatever. But the campus is out of school 5 months out of the year. And I just would question what those officers do up there during the summer. We're in June, graduation is held, so there is some summer school, but there's not a lot of activity. So you've got June, July, and August, school starts again in September, yet we're still going through, if you look at 1/12 of the budget, it's significantly high. So I'm just asking that we can't wait until next budget season. I think these things need to be addressed.
So I think that,
Sir,
so
short.
I'm going to very quickly
Please.
respond, because I know this is just public comment.
Yep.
But I want to respond anyways. So we actually have a couple of options. Clearly, what appears to be the rock in everybody's claw is that the chief and the lieutenant and the sergeant and the administrative assistant are making money. We can absolutely cut that. We could cut it right down so they weren't making any extra money.
Okay.
The town is not going to get that money.
Okay, no, I understood the way the agreement, yes,
Right.
you're right.
That money goes back to Anna Maria. Now, you mentioned pilot. So,
That's payment in lieu of taxes, just because,
Correct.
again, we have a lot of letters. You
no,
mentioned a lot of
you
letters.
are 100%
Okay.
correct. And pilot is something that we have discussed with Anna Maria College, certainly during my first 12 and a half year, 10-year, early on especially. And it was made clear to us that they didn't have the money to pay pilot. What they have the money for was to dissolve their own police force, or their own police, call it public safety agency.
Okay.
And pay us the money instead. Now, we absolutely could dissolve the budget, or dissolve the agreement next June. We'd have to give notification, I believe, in November or December. I'd have to look at.
I thought it was a 60-day notice, but again, I was
I think
reading
it's
it.
longer than that.
Okay.
Only because, the reason I think, again, you're asking me to remember something from a while ago, but the reason I think it's longer is because if we notify Anna Maria that we no longer wish to enter this agreement, we have to give Anna Maria College time to build an agency.
Fine, okay.
So I think that's why it's longer.
Makes sense.
It's going to cost Anna Maria College more money. And
But,
again.
is that our issue? I mean, if it
Oh,
costs. Okay.
no, it's not our issue. It's not our issue. It's also going to draw on town resources. And this is the part that, because I was there at the original signing, I was there in the beginning, and I understand why this all started, was because the town resources were going to campus a lot. It started under Jack Calariso, is that how you, I believe that's
I
how you
remember
say
it.
Yeah.
his name.
Yeah.
When he was the president, and if you remember, what he did was, what changed Anna Maria dramatically, in my opinion, this is my opinion now, was the addition of football. And when they added football, it changed the recruiting for some of their students. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, but
As a
enrollment.
hold on, let me
Okay,
just
I'm-
finish. So as a result, what was happening was town resources, in particular on Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays, were going to Anna Maria College quite a bit. it was driving the college crazy. They were having difficulties handling it, and of course, it was pulling resources out of the rest of the town. As a result, Mr. Calariso and Bob DeRosa got together and said, how can we solve this problem? And the agreement was that Anna Maria would dissolve their agency, we would absorb it, and then we would provide the service for Anna Maria College as a separate agreement from what the town budget is. So out of that town budget, we paid the police chief in FY '26 $137,500.
Wait, 26 or 25?
25.
All right, I just want to make.
I'm getting a year ahead, aren't I?
That's all right. It's been a long cycle here.
It certainly has. So we're paying, the taxpayers of Paxton are paying $137,500 to the police chief.
Correct. Okay.
Anna Maria has accepted a budget which has gone up incrementally since it first started of, I think and I don't remember the number off the top of my head, 41,000, it's close. It's in the ballpark. Now, if Anna Maria were to go out and hire their own chief, and again, this is not Paxton's problem, but if Anna Maria were to go out and hire their own chief, it's going to cost them considerably more.
I agree with that.
So what they're doing is they're saying is, this is a good deal for Anna Maria. It's not costing Paxton anything. Now, the problem we have is people are looking at that budget and saying, but Paxton's not benefiting from it. As far as money goes, we are benefiting from it because we are able to every once in a while pull somebody out of there, and we're not sending people over there regularly. What the problem is, people want to benefit financially from it as a town. It's not set up that way. It's set up so that we provide the services and we bill for the services that we provide. It's not a pilot program.
No, I understand.
And that's, so I think what people are thinking is, well, let's just cut how much we pay the 4 people there.
Or 6. I think there's 6 officers.
Well, no, I'm talking about the 4.
Oh, the 4 here and chief,
Yeah,
deputy,
yes,
sergeant.
yes, those 4.
Okay.
What they're saying is, let's cut those, how much we pay them, and we'll just take that money. But that money is set in the Anna Maria budget.
Understood.
So we're not going to just take that money.
No.
And so, go ahead.
No, listen, I'm not debating or I don't want to have a contentious discussion. No, because I said I appreciated the fact when I watched that thing that you apologized to Mr. Dominic, I thought that was very, humble on your part. And he didn't feel offended. So anyway, and I don't in any way. I am just here with a couple of comments that we have the police chief on contract for 24/7, 365 for $137,500. All right. How do we differentiate that he has another job, I guess I'm classifying as another job in town that can pay him, in your number, $40,000, whether it's more than that. And how do we determine, when you said that since the agreement is coming, we do not go there that much as we did before the agreement was in place, because we'd send officers, we'd send ambulances. Why wouldn't we, for athletic purposes, assign, like we do when there's road work, there's a detail. So if we need to put an ambulance on campus for that period, that we would know how long it's going to be there and what the billable would be. If we need to have 2 officers there for traffic control, whatever, that it would be treated like a detail at whatever, $500 a day. I mean, I was listening to Travis talk, when they dig anything, it's $12,000 for this situation. So I'm just saying that would allow that money to come back to the town as a revenue source versus an additional pay. Am I making?
But it wouldn't be a revenue source.
Well, where does the money go for details when Verizon goes through town and we have 2 officers? Where does that fee that we charge Verizon for that duty officer to stand out there and guard traffic or direct traffic for 8 hours?
Yeah, but they're not.
The detail.
But when we.
I'm sorry, wait. Just,
For the detail.
Yeah.
all right, so it goes to
but
the
here's-
so that's an overtime charge
But
that he
here's
gets?
the difference, though. Here's the difference. When we have a detail for Verizon, we're not setting up a whole nother agency.
No, I'm not asking. I'm saying if this thing were to be dissolved next June.
Yeah.
I'm saying going ahead, we would do bill for services. So if you need.
Well, but we wouldn't. They would set up their own agency.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, no, they absolutely, they'd have to. Because one of the things that they boast about in their literature, and it's in the contract, is they have a very secure campus, partly because of their relationship with us. You can't, there isn't a college campus around in which you could just not have police there.
Well, not have security versus police, there's difference.
Well, they have both, and you wouldn't be able to just, you wouldn't be able to just say, okay, we're not gonna have security, we're not gonna have police, we're just gonna rely on the town. There's no way we'd be able to do that. They'd have to build their own agency again, which is what they had prior to we started. Our time is kind of gone on.
All right, but just one question, just to differentiate.
But what I'd like to do, what I really would like to do, and then we can carry on this discussion in open like this.
Okay.
First, I'd love to meet with you sometime and kind of go over my feelings.
That's
And
fine.
then I'll be more than happy to do it in an open meeting as well, so that both of our views are expressed so that everyone can hear it.
That's fine.
But this is not a discussion that I was anticipating.
No, that's, I just in view of everything that's gone on
Sure.
in the last couple of
No,
weeks, I
and-
figure it's
and-
fresh in everybody's mind.
Yeah.
Particularly in mine that tends to, lose things as whatever. Just one last comment, if you would just indulge me. It was my understanding that the pay that the officers receive, the employees receive, also the college pays the retirement for those employees. They pay into the Worcester County Retirement Association in like cost. I mean, Carol, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I make 50 grand and whatever my retirement is X number of dollars, they're paying that in.
Yes.
And that's fine. So that increases the W-2 earnings, meaning when we get to that. I heard the other night the chiefs have offered to retire, whether it be then or in December or next June or whatever. But his retirement is based on his best 3 years of compensation. And if we're adding to that that 137.5 by whatever amount it is, when he retires, the agreement is not contingent on Anna Marie paying that retirement for the rest of his life. That burden comes back to the town. Am I correct? That's my assumption from what I've found. So we inherit that extra income that he has earned as a responsibility for retirement and insurance purposes, which I don't think has ever come out, and I think that's important for people to realize as we move forward with budgets. And if the burden to the town so much is for police, what do we do for EMS? I mean, on weekends when there were beer blasts and everything, the ambulances run all the time, but where do we see that? I didn't see anything on that budget for the fire chief, for the captains, the deputy chiefs, the EMTs or whatever. I thought it was a small 25 grand, 30 grand. Help me, just.
It's a separate MOU for the
It is
fire
for
department.
them. Okay, that's fine. I didn't see it there. I'm saying if it's a burden to the police, because they always have to go there, I didn't see anything for the fire department. So if we also have that, can we put that up on the town webpage too, just so it's
It's
all
already
out?
there.
It is, okay.
Yep.
I haven't found that yet. Okay. Thank you for your time. I'll take you up on your offer. I am semi-retired, retired, whatever, so I'm available whenever you want to get together. Coffee is great.
I'll be semi-retired the night of the 16th
Okay,
until late August.
okay. We can do that then
Good.
this summer. We'll get
Excellent.
together. We'll have a cup of coffee and go from there. Thank you
I'd like
for
that.
your time, and thank you for the allowance of making the comment.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bags.
I do have the timeline if you want it. It's 182 days.
Oh, and that's right, 6 months. And that makes sense, because you can't just pull the plug and say, ha-ha, you're on your own.
I figured it was about that. All right. And that takes us to the final item on our agenda, and that is to adjourn. May I please have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Julia? Carol?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are adjourned.